Hi everyone, thanks for stopping by and for returning to the old world. Today, let's talk about the joy of wargame shows and why I like them. So I've been to a couple of shows. By a couple, I mean a couple of events, but I've been to those two events multiple times over the years. And I've just thought it'd be interesting to recount my experiences around them and what I particularly have enjoyed. The two shows I've got principal experience of are Hammerhead, which is a relatively small show but growing, held in March each year, and that's in the Newark Showground, so just outside Nottingham, which is really the centre of all things wargaming here in the UK. The other one being Salute, which is a huge show in East London. I have been to a couple of other things, like Dragon's Meet, for example, but I'm not going to really discuss that here. That's more of a role-play game type convention than Wargames. I've also been to the Games Expo, but again, that's more board games and things like that. So a slightly different board game, really. So, Hammerhead. When I first started going a few years ago, it was relatively small, but it is growing. It now takes over two buildings where it used to take over one. You get quite a few people go, but it's not really packed. Overall, it seems to be a show that's growing. It has a good range of traders, which are increasing, good range of games. It's mostly historical stuff. So if you are dyed-in-the-wool fantasy or sci-fi, there might be a little bit less for you there. But one of the things I really do like about Hammerhead is you get a lot of the smaller traders there. And by that, I mean people that make things for the hobby, typically things like terrain, and they do it around their job, and it's something they do for a bit of fun, and it kind of just hopefully funds itself. And you also get to see stuff that's in a wider range of scales. So it tends to be a bit more 6mm, 10mm, 12, 15, that sort of thing, rather than the huge focus on the 28mm slash 32mm, which is the most prevalent out there, certainly amongst the mainstream games and the big popular things. Hammerhead does have a bring and buy, rotates, I think, on a hourly basis most years, so there's quite regularly a change in what is available for purchase, and I have found some really good stuff on those bring and buy sales, so it's always worth a look. There's usual sort of demo games you can have a look at, and just exhibit games, really. And overall, I think it's quite a good shopping experience. You've got a bit of time to meander through the various stalls, have a look at close up at what people are selling, look through the bookstores with a bit of detail, that kind of thing, which is really good. Then there's Salute, which is the opposite end of the spectrum. Salute's huge, thousands of people, and a huge number of traders and games. So big, it's difficult, I think, to actually look at everything properly, because quite frankly, your feet get tired by the end of the haul. But it's still a really good experience. There's some great inspiration there, and you get a lot of the big name traders. Your Whaling Games, I think Forge World often turn up, which at Hammerhead you don't get people like that there. So if you want the big names that do the really cheap prices, something like Salute is perhaps a bit more fitting for what you're after. It is a bit of a less of a chill environment because there's so many people. It's a bit more of a crush, but again, you're going for a slightly different thing. It's a great experience, and you can see such a wide variety of things. that's all really a positive. The only thing I would say is perhaps if you are looking again at these smaller traders, perhaps the ones you wouldn't necessarily stumble across online, but people who you need to see them at something in order to know they exist, they're not going to be at Salute. And from talking to a few of them, the reason basically is it's really expensive to have a table at Salute. So if you're a small player, you're not going to want to have that huge outlay because it's going to be difficult for you to recoup that in sales. But so that aside, it's a different beast, but still really good. So having gone through all of that and blathered on, why do I like these shows? Well, inspiration is a big thing. You're seeing all the painted models that are laid out with the demo games and the exhibition games. You can see what is achievable with the figures, and you get a lot of certainly it's Salute. I say a lot of, you get some commission painters and people selling painted models. You can see what people who are really good at painting can do with figures, which kind of leads me into my second point, which is it's a really good opportunity to see things you might be tempted to buy in the flesh. And I think that's really important because if you walk into a local game store, quite often everything's just sat in its boxes. There might be a few models available to peruse, but you're looking at stuff really online, videos, pictures. And I do find personally that there's been a number of times where I've looked at a model and gone, not sure I really like that model, where in reality, the model is great. The paint scheme, the colour choices haven't really resonated with me. So like an orc skin might be a little bit too bright and vibrant. And I've gone, oh, that model looks a little cartoony. It has nothing to do with the model. It's just that from a personal preference, I would prefer a slightly darker green as the skin colour. So seeing stuff in the flesh is really good to help you get around that issue and to sort of see how things compare to each other as well. If there's a few loose models around of different producers, so you can see, does this Games Workshop dwarf look all right next to this Oathmark dwarf, look all right next to this Mantic dwarf? Would units of them mix well? That kind of thing. And then there's another fundamental thing which is great about these wargame shows. They're a day out. It's an opportunity to socialise with friends, family, whatever. Go out, do something you've got a common interest in. Have a look around the stores. Maybe stop, have a bite to eat, a drink if you're not driving. It's not just about the show, it's about the experience around it, chatting around what you see, what takes your fancy, maybe a particular inspiration point. Think, actually, I've seen this is amazing, I want to do this army. The whole thing around it as a day out and a social occasion isn't really to be sniffed at, and can make them more interesting than they perhaps otherwise would be if you're literally turning up to go shopping, and it's the way you go almost to the supermarket to buy your weekly foodstuffs. So where does this leave me? Well, I've really enjoyed going to the shows I have done. I would definitely recommend popping along to one if you have the opportunity to see what it's all about. Personally, I've found a more enjoyable experience really at the slightly smaller one in the form of a Hammerhead type show, purely because it's a little bit more relaxed. You've got a bit more time to engage with the traders themselves, have a chat, talk about what they're up to, what kind of produce they've got, particularly the people that are making their own thing. flick through the various bits and bobs without being sort of crushed, and knowing that everyone's a bit rushed, because the traders, they want to serve as many people as they can because there's a lot of people around, that kind of thing. So that would be perhaps my recommendation, is the smaller one. But my first show I went to was Salute. It was an amazing experience. Really fun, welcoming. Yes, busy, but still really enjoyable. There's so many things going for it. So overall, yeah, that's pretty much why I enjoy Wargame shows. I'll keep going to them, and if nothing else, it is a chance to see other people in the community that perhaps you wouldn't normally get to see. Maybe you get a chance to engage with them. Maybe you'll even get to see your favourite YouTuber wandering around. It's not unheard of, but that's perhaps that's a story for another day. Overall, just want to say now, thank you very much for listening to me blather on for the last 11 minutes or so. I'm returned to the old world. Have a great day.